Lincoln, welcome, and thank you very much for being here with us. Tell us about you and why we are interviewing you today.
Well, I'm an attorney in Los Angeles. I've been practicing for about 30 years. I specialize in defamation law as well as intellectual property issues, but I've been primarily a First Amendment attorney for almost 30 years.
So you have been doing this like I'm drinking coffee in the morning.
It is something I've also been teaching for about 25 years. I'm somewhat familiar apparently with the issues you want to talk about.
Great. The first question people ask, what is a cap and what the judge was talking about? What is a cap? Because I know and I have experienced an insurance case when the insurance is involved before the jury give the verdict. Okay, I know we're going to lose, so we're going to give you the cap. But I didn't know personally in a defamation case, you have that too.
Well, it's not in a defamation case. It's in the state of Virginia. Mm-hmm. They have there's a statute that was passed that caps punitive damages. So this has nothing to do necessarily with the fact that this was a defamation case. It's simply in any case in the state of Virginia where someone seeks punitive damages, the statute says that amount of punitive damages is capped at $350,000. Now, the jury's not told about that. So they're free to award whatever they think is appropriate as an indicator of how they feel about the malicious nature of the activity, et cetera. So in this case, they awarded $5 million in punitive damages to Johnny Depp, but he won't get that because the statute caps punitives at $350,000.
So it doesn't matter that the jury decide that it's going to be this amount because of the state of Virginia, he only going to receive $350,000.
He will only be entitled to recover $350,000 of the punitive damages. There was no cap on the actual damages of $10 million that were awarded, so that will stay in place.
What is punitive damages for the people who has been hearing about the phrase, but they don't understand what is the complex about that?
So punitive damages, so there's a couple of ways money works into a verdict in a case. One is something called compensatory or actual damages. That is where the person suing proves that the conduct they're suing over caused X amount of damage, caused their reputation to be harmed to the tune of 10 million or 2 million or $3 or whatever it is. They actually produce evidence and they're being compensated for the harm that was caused. Punitive damages are an award that punishes the defendant because their conduct was deemed to be particularly malicious and in bad faith and was sort of designed to do someone harm rather than just, oops, I accidentally harmed you and yes, you were damaged and here's some money that compensates you for that. This is now, we want additional amounts of money to send a message to that person and perhaps other people. Don't do this particularly bad, malicious thing. That's what punitive damages are. One of the things that gets difficult in defamation cases is there's a little bit of misunderstanding of how the word malice is being used. For purposes of proving a defamation case, we've heard this term for public figures of actual malice, but it doesn't mean the kind of malice, ill will, hatred that we normally associate with the word malice. In a defamation case, actual malice simply means you said something either flat out knowing it was false, so essentially lying, or you had reckless disregard for the truth. You had substantial reasons to doubt what you were saying. You sort of pretty much knew it was false, but you said it anyway. So that's the actual malice standard. And it doesn't really, as I said, relate to ill feelings about somebody. Malice for purposes of punitive damages is a different thing. Malice for purposes of punitive damage is I don't like this person. I have ill will towards this person. I'm specifically intentionally trying to harm this person. So that kind of malice to be awarded punitive damages is a sort of personal hatred type of thing or an intentional trying to harm type of thing. Malice for purposes of defamation is simply you knew it was wrong or you had really substantial reasons to believe it was wrong.
Now, there were talk about a lot about that she retweeting the ops that first of all, she says she didn't wrote, she never read. And by the way, this woman doesn't go to the bathroom without a publicist and people reviewing their documents. So innocently, I want to believe that it's kind of difficult to believe that you're going to be publishing a ops saying that you are the new face for domestic abuse without reading it. But they were talking about is she affirming what she says on the ops by retweeting? So what happened when you see something on the media and you retweet it when it's related to you or related to another person, and if you add comments to that or not, that will be considered defamation for any other law-abiding citizen or for a person who was involved, like in this case?
Yeah, that's a bit of a complicated question. So there's notions of if you're republishing someone else's statement, you're making it your statement itself. There may be issues of the republication starts a new statute of limitations deadline. A republication was sort of an endorsement of what was said, and maybe some additional commentary may give rise to some liability. So there was all of those issues in the case to make it clear that it really was, there was two real big issues, that it was her statements and it was about him. Those were the big issues that were litigated here, which clearly the jury found that it was her statements, it was about him, and it was specific statements that he had engaged in certain wrongful activity that the jury found that they disbelieved.
If you and I, we republish the same ops saying like Johnny Depp is a X and Y, he should be punished, that will consider into a defamation or not? Well,
so there's a big misconception among lay people, there's this doctrine called republication, and it simply means when you repeat what other people say, you're just as responsible for having said it. So if you come to me and you say your brother's a drunk driver or something, and then I go and say, according to her brother's a drunk driver, I can't have a defense to say, hey, I'm not saying it, I'm just repeating what she told me. Well, no, you're now saying it because you are repeating what somebody else said. So republication just simply means you're responsible for the statement, despite the fact that the statement may have initially originated with somebody else.
So people need to start being more aware of what they're republishing on reading things.
Well, people think, oh, well, it's just gossip. I'm just telling you what somebody else says. But when you tell the world what somebody else says, you're now saying it, you're now responsible for it.
That's a good lesson, I think, to learn. Now, finally, what happened with the verdict? What it meant that they give him 0 to her, some money to him, but some money to her. People is confused, like, why they both received money?
Well, because they both had claims. He had sued her for defamation. She had counterclaimed against him. So essentially, she becomes the plaintiff and her claims against him. So they both had claims against each other. That's not tremendously unusual in a lawsuit. His claims were essentially that the op-ed piece in which she claimed she was a victim of sexual and domestic violence, that was a lie. And that's accusing him of illegal conduct and horrific conduct, etc. So he's saying, you defamed me by saying those things. I'm suing you for defamation. She counterclaimed against him saying, A, you abused me. So when you physically abuse another person, that could give rise to claims. And B, your lawyer, essentially, she says is your agent, your lawyer defamed me when he wrote an article saying that I was lying and making all of this up. So there were a variety of statements at issue. Both statements made by her in the op-ed were at issue in his defamation claim, and statements made by his lawyer about her, that she made this up, that this was a hoax, etc. Those statements were at issue in her counterclaims. The jury found all of the statements that Johnny Depp was suing over from her op-ed were defamatory statements that were untrue, etc. So they awarded him $10 million in actual damages for those statements and $5 million in punitives that we know now will be reduced to $350,000. So he essentially won on his defamation cases claims $10,350,000. On her counterclaims, the jury rejected almost all of them except one statement made in that article written by Johnny Depp's lawyer. The statement was something along the lines that she'd sort of set up a scene to make it look like something happened when nothing did happen. The jury apparently felt that there was no evidence to support that contention, that she set up some kind of scene to make it look like a fight happened. So they ruled that was defamatory for that lawyer to have said that she would invent a scene to try to support her claims. And so they awarded her $2 million in actual damages related to that statement. They awarded her zero in punitive damages. So just the $2 million in that. Now, there'll be some issues that come out of that. And I'm a little unclear whether that's $2 million. Well, what'll be unclear is who's going to have to ultimately someday pay that $2 million. Will it be the lawyer who wrote the article, or will it be Johnny Depp? Because the lawyer will say, I'm your lawyer. You basically, as your agent wanted me to say these things in a story, so you should pay for it. So there may be some scuffle over who would ultimately have to pay that $2 million, but it is an award that she would get. Now, obviously, it's offset significantly by the $10 million that she's going to owe him on Johnny Depp's claims. So there was she got a little bit of a verdict for her behalf as well on one statement from the lawyer's article.
What happened if any of them says, I cannot pay for this? What happened?
Well, there's going to be there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen over the course of time.
This is not finished. When people says it's done, you don't have an idea.
There's
June 24, they're going to meet again to see how they're going to fulfill with the verdict. So
it's just going to be issuing a judgment. June 24th will be just the court issuing its ultimate judgment. The judgment is the thing that gives you the right to go collect some monies. The judgment is also the thing that gets appealed. So the June 24th will just be setting that judgment. Then Amber Heard will have to determine, does she want to appeal? Johnny Depp could appeal because he lost part of the case as well. And there could be other issues he'd want to appeal. So there'll be an issue of whether it's appealed. When something's appealed, you can ask for a stay on the enforcement of a monetary award. So that could possibly stay any obligation to pay any monies for a period of time over the course of an appeal. And then you've also got the possibility, and I think the very likely possibility, that the parties will settle the case now. Now, as you said, the case is far from over, but now we sort of know it's hard to get cases, jury verdicts reversed on appeal. Courts of appeal tend to want to defer to the fact finder that was there for everything, but there may be evidentiary rulings and jury instructions and errors of law that could be argued in the appeal. But I think the parties are going to get together and come to some resolution of all of those different money awards, et cetera, and then go from there. There's also potentially, and I think there is in this case, insurance companies involved. I believe Amber Heard's insurance carrier may be behind this in some ways in terms of having an obligation to pay some monies. So all of those players will get into the mix. My sense is what Johnny Depp wanted more than anything was a jury verdict saying she lied about me. And, wanting his reputation to be restored by that verdict that says, accusing me of having done these horrific things is false. I didn't, can I have my reputation back? So I think he got what he really wanted. I don't think the money is as important to him as getting that. And I think, she's going to be motivated by trying to save face a little bit and say, oh, actually, I should have been believed and I should have won. And the trial court made a bunch of errors that I think are going to get reversed on appeal. But after that sort of crowing back and forth for a little bit of time, I get a general sense of these parties will meet, they'll sit at a table or with a mediator, and they'll figure out a way to resolve this and be done.
They can resolve to lower the damages they need to pay to each other if they have a mediator and go to court and says, well, they decided neither of us want the money and we want to let it
any parties at any moment can decide to resolve a case under whatever terms basically they want to resolve it on. And it's not something, by the way, that you need to go to the court to do. The two of them could, their two lawyers could get on the phone tomorrow and go, hey, do you want to resolve this? They could decide to resolve it for what's called a walkaway. Nobody gets any money. They're just done. They can say, okay, give me $5 million. They could say whatever. So that's always an option at any point. And the jury verdict now just sort of changes the negotiation optics. Now Johnny Depp is in a very strong negotiation position because he's won this jury verdict. It doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't counter arguments by her side. Hey, I could get this reversed on appeal. You could spend another, $5 million in attorney's fees as we do all that and do another trial. So there's going to be a back and forth negotiation, but the parties are free to do that anytime they want.
Lincoln, thank you very much because you jumped on this call after talking on the phone really fast. Appreciate it. All your information is going to be below. Thank you very much because we have all these questions and I have my own question, and thank you for clarifying. And I'd like to act like ignorant because it's the best way to learn. Go with the question. Thank you.
My pleasure. And having taught this for so many years, these questions are frequent questions I get all the time. So it's no problem answering them. And certainly look to me if you have questions in the future.
I hope to see you again with any other interesting cases happen out there.
There will be. That's LA celebrity life. So there'll always be these cases out there.